Hi both, and thanks for joining me today. I know this is our second recording of the day. I've got Graeme Dale and Kim Robbie from Sport Aberdeen back with me, and we are going to talk about the successes they've had around driving culture change within the wider team, by which we mean people working in schools and with communities directly. So going beyond the staff that have worked on the Lives programme as such. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about was if you could tell us a little bit about what the culture is around sport and physical activity and intentionally using sport as a vehicle for change. Can you describe what the culture's like now and how that might be different to how it was in the past?
Yeah, I mean the culture is now it is sport is the vehicle, physical activity is that vehicle, but it's looking at the different outcomes that we want to achieve, and it isn't getting somebody fitter, it isn't getting a non-participant to participate in something. It is what is really personal to them, their own
Mhm.
circumstances, the challenges that they maybe face, and how we can support that. So it's maybe a young person that is unable to attend school. How can we get them back into attending at a particular level? But we're using sport, physical activity to do that. And that's really a huge shift from where we were quite a few years ago, where it was, it was a standard active schools program. It was more children, more active, more often. If we had 1,000, let's get 2,000. If we had, 5,000, let's get 10,000.
Yeah.
It's much more now about seeing what is that, almost that societal benefit. And it is that it's hard work. It's a lot more personalized. It's a lot more bespoke, small numbers, one-to-ones. But it's getting those outcomes or achieving those outcomes around about the kind of person-centered. And we always speak about, or with Kim, when it's with children, that child-centered, child at the heart of what we do. It's not about what we want, it's about what they need, and how we can help with that. So that's been a huge shift, and that has really driven us with how we've developed the team, what funding opportunities we have gone for, and often been successful, and we've been able to build from there. And again, it's that kind of cycle of some successes and being able to build, being seen as that partner, that organization that is good at these things and can do these things. And it's just that it just builds that momentum with it. But it's been an awful lot of work from an awful lot of people. And it did, we did start with one person, one member of staff from our community sports side doing the Changing Lives program. And that probably fell around, well, it was really good timing because it was the start of a journey we were starting to look at and to take and to move to that as well. So it felt like it was good timing to get, it was Tom Lambert at the time, to get him trained to go through the program. And he was able to bring back, a lot of the really good resources, a lot of the knowledge, that really helped us when we were kind of starting that journey.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Can you tell me a little bit about the most successful things that you feel you've done to drive that bigger culture change piece?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, so I came, I guess, into the active schools team probably around about when Changing Lives was just starting, but I wasn't actually part of the programme. So I came in as an active schools coordinator. And I think for me, it was clear that Sport Aberdeen had the vision of creating opportunities, inspiring people and changing lives through sport and physical activity. But changing lives as a concept helped give the tools to, I would say, look at our starting point and then what we were trying to get to. But because it wasn't done in isolation, Tom had a cohort that he went through that with. It meant that everyone had a safe space to learn, try, fail, try again in that. Um, so for me, I guess it helped the Sport Aberdeen vision at the time. And that vision is something which we do all across the organisation refer back to. So when it comes to that culture side of things, whether we're calling it changing lives, I mean, it helps that it's in our vision. It's something which everyone is able to stop and look at where the part they play in that. So for me, the actual fact that we have that as as our vision is a huge success, because it means it's on our lanyards, it's on our walls, it's on our email signatures, all of that. So the subtle messages are there as much as the direct work that is happening across the active schools team, community sport team, and wider afield.
I definitely know from speaking with you that that vision seems like a real touch point for people, like it's something that connects everyone. And can you remind us what the vision is?
Happy to. Creating opportunities, inspiring people, and changing lives through sport and physical activity.
Brilliant, lovely. Graeme, were you going to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key things that we've done, and there has been an intentionality behind it, is a lot of us, and I would say myself, come from a sports development kind of background, always been within this sector. As we've developed over time, we have recruited from different sectors out with. One of the first ones was when we first started off with our project around about care experience young people. We recruited a social worker into the company. And the rationale behind that was we've got lots and lots of people that know a lot about sport and physical activity, but we don't have anyone that really understands the social work side. We can teach somebody with a social work background some of the skills that they got, or we could just support them, because there's lots of people here to support them. And that was a key part to that project at the time, and that's continued. And if we look at the makeup now of Kim's team, it's really diverse, and there's people coming from different backgrounds. Some are very much, what we would say is almost traditional sports development and that, and we absolutely need that. But there's others that come from all different sectors, different backgrounds, and it really helps with that understanding and that work, the bespoke one-to-one, the challenging, difficult work. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, because we're engaging with, it could be young people with very complex lives, and the environment that they live in is really challenging. So it's getting that varied team of experiences, and ones that we're not able to just from what would have been our traditional pool of employees. We wouldn't have those skills. So getting other people to come in, and that's worked really well, and I think that has really helped the organisation as well, just with the level, the width, the breadth of understanding that we have.
Yeah, I would definitely add to that the diversity of, let's say, the active schools team. And I don't want people assuming that that's across our specialists or more targeted work. That's the active schools coordinators, that's the community sport officers, where the diversity across each level of job role has really, I guess, lifted all of it. But alongside that, it's allowed for probably a safer space for people to bounce ideas back and forth, because we're not all coming from the same background, and therefore everyone's diverse viewpoint and opinion all adds together. So a team meeting, for example, is a safe space for people to put out something that might seem so out there, but actually it might be an answer to something the others have been trying to figure out. So the diversity, and I'm saying diversity across that's job experience, it's also cultural, it's every part of diversity, has meant that ultimately the quality of all of our programs has increased, because there's different viewpoints looking at it, for me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's how diversity should work, isn't it? That you get that richness that makes you better than, more than the sum of your parts, I suppose, as a team. That's excellent. Okay, so you've talked to me a wee bit about how you've used that vision as a touch point for people. You've talked about the recruitment part, which has obviously been a big part of your culture change. Can you tell me a little bit about how you have built the approach into the way you think about the sort of universal targeted specialist provision? Would you be able to tell me a little bit about that as well?
I thought you'd look
Yeah.
Yeah, so active schools, or it started off as active schools, operate within a framework of universal, targeted, and specialist provision. The concept actually was shared from one of our kind of key partners within Aberdeen City Council's education team, who was really keen to help us ensure that our model was effective for the young people they're trying to support, and shared the approach that is a common kind of, I guess, framework within their area of work, and could see that we would align with something similar. So from an active schools perspective, we ended up looking at universal provision being those opportunities that are available for the mass population, our targeted provision, which is more bespoke to kind of either groups of individuals with kind of a shared need or barrier, and then our specialist provision, which is our more bespoke one-to-one opportunities, where we are using sport and physical activity as that intentional tool for change, such as our work with care experienced young people. So that's how it started. I would say over the last couple of years, it has evolved quite quickly, and it is now a Sport Aberdeen framework. So it doesn't matter if you're in one of the venues or if you're in working with older adults. It's a shared language across our own organisation, but it's also allowed it to be a kind of shared language across education, health, social care, because again, from a city perspective, it is quite a common way of looking at it. What it's allowed is for us to really make sure that those pathways are in place for young people, and a child can sit within universal targeted or specialist support, or they can sit across all three at any given time, because it's about what's right for that young person in that moment and in that aspect of their life. So it might be actually some of our curricular based intervention, they're in the specialist kind of tier of support, but actually in the evening, they're absolutely able to take part in club activity because there's supports in place around that. And they're then in universal support as well. So it really is looking at a young person or an adult along that continuum, because ultimately when we look at the wider policy behind that, it is about getting it out for every child or getting it out for everyone. And therefore we have to be able to have the framework that matches that, which I think we're getting there with.
Mm-hmm. And one of the nicest bits for me, and I still remember it vividly, was being in a meeting that was, cross company, and colleague from another part of the organisation, another part of the company, using that in the middle of the meeting, completely unprompted, and it just came out naturally. And that was one of the moments that you thought, this is stuck. And all the time that we've spoken about it and it's just other people are starting to use it, and it's part of their vocabulary, and you can see it. And it is, there's a level of complication under it, that there's a lot of hard work that goes on, but it is quite simple. And it's quite simple when you're speaking to different people about it. This is how we operate. This is what we would do in this particular situation, or working with this particular group or young person. It does make it easier to do that. So yeah, I think that has been a real success. And we've, when we've looked at different things like target markets and how Sport Aberdeen can be more successful when we look across equality, diversion and inclusion, we've always said that we want to get or our market should be 100% of people, because that's bigger than 80% of people. So why would we not be looking at how we can target, we can have the 20% that have been traditionally maybe ignored. I'm not going to say hard to reach, because that's insulting. They're not hard to reach. It's because we, as a society, as an organisation, as a sector, have been pretty rubbish at engaging with them. So I would always rather take or pick from 100% rather than 80% or 70%. And from a financial point of view, that makes absolute sense as well. So on all counts, it is a really strong argument, and it's the right argument, and it's beneficial for us. It's beneficial for every organisation, every club, whoever it is within the sector, to be looking at it in this way. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going. keep it simple is definitely really important.
And from a cultural change and leadership change perspective, that messaging is important, because resources, limited. We have to work smart with what we've got and all of that side of things. But it's changing mindset that EDI approach, or changing lives approach, is one where you give everything away for free, and it's going to cost the company. So changing it to go, actually, diversity adds to the company is such an important one. And yeah, there may be schemes and things that we've got in place where we do provide opportunities for free, but we also look at how that's not the only barrier that people face. So changing that mindset and raising awareness, I think, has been quite key along that journey.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing the details of all of that. There's lots there for people. Any final comments or advice that you give to people that are maybe struggling with culture change or starting out in that journey? If you have anything.
Keep at it. It will not happen overnight. I think initially, if it's just you, if it's one person, find somebody else. And that you've already doubled, you know, that voice. See how you can build it slowly that way. But you know, like what we did with universal target and specialists, you know, it's consistent messaging. Keep on pushing for it, and it will start to stick. But be confident in what you're saying, what you're doing, because again, you know, it comes down. So we are a trust. We're an arm's length organisation for the city council. So we have to look at what they are, you know, from the community planning, local outcome improvement plan. Now, a lot of the stuff around about the cultural change that I think we would be looking at fits directly into what is in those plans and what should be delivered. So it's not like Kim said, it's not bad financially, because for a lot of organisations like ourselves, that's where the funding is going to come from. That's what it's going to be to deliver. So as an organisation, we should be on point with that, because that's going to further impact us in the future. For smaller organisations as well, if it's clubs, you know, changing that culture, it's about, well, do you want your club to be sustainable? How do you make it sustainable? Get more people, being able to replace people that are leaving, opening up your market again. It's that 100% of people in the local community. Why would you not want that open for your club to come in? So, yeah, I think finding those like-minded individuals to keep at it, have that strong message, but it's quite simple, and yeah, keep going, I think.
Yeah, and I think I would add a little bit to that, echo exactly what Graeme's saying, but I think we also have to acknowledge that there might not be a foolproof guide around culture change, but we do know about how we operate as humans and how we all process change, and that is an absolute journey, and it's complicated. But I think my message is someone has to start that journey, and if it's not going to be you, then who is it going to be?
Yeah.
Because it's all of our responsibility to make it happen.
Yeah. I think that's really, really good advice, that you just have to navigate that journey and boldly set off on it and find your way. I love that. Thank you so much for your time today on this one. And yeah, thank you. See you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.